For the new ham workshop, what is the best dual band mobile VHF UHF mobile radio that you should get for your car? I'm going to go through some of those today. I'm going to explain why I'm choosing the ones I do, so stick around.
Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, Ham Radio 2.0. My name's Jason, and my call sign is KC5HWB. On this channel, we do reviews, news, and how-tos of everything that's new in amateur radio. So if that's something that interests you, consider subscribing below and click that thumbs up for me. So what is the best mobile dual-band VHF UHF radio for a new ham in 2020? That is the question we're going to be answering today. Now, let me go over a couple of ground rules, because I did an HT video, and I had a lot of questions about it. And they were all valid questions, but let me explain where I'm coming from. So today, I'm going to talk about dual-band mobile radios. Okay, so you can get tri-band mobile radios, you can get multi-band, you can get mono-band, you can get HF. We're not talking about HF today. I'm talking about for a new ham who's got a technician license who wants to put a radio in their car for VHF 2 meters and UHF 440 or 70 centimeters. What radio would I recommend? Now, all of these radios I've used in some capacity or another, and as I go through them, I'll explain my thoughts about them. Some are definitely different than others, but we're not talking about D-Star or DMR or Fusion today. Although some of the higher-end radios will have some digital mode features, and I'll explain that when we get there. But for the most part, these are dual-band radios, 2 meters and 440, and I'm going to start low and I'm going to go high again. Like I said on the HT video that I posted a couple weeks ago, choose the most expensive radio that you can afford at the time, okay? Because if you choose the absolute drop-dead cheapest radio, it's not going to be something that you're going to want to use long-term. And we'll talk about that as well. There are bigger and better features on the more expensive radios. There's better brands. The more expensive radios are made lots of times in Japan rather than China. They have better receive sensitivity. They have better front-end filtering. So in other words, when you're talking on one band or listening to one band, you're not going to get what's called intermod or descents from another band. Some of the lower-end models, you have that problem. If you're in a major metroplex area like I am, Dallas-Fort Worth, and there's a lot of different RF signals from various bands, amateur radio, police and fire, a bunch of other commercial stuff, you can sometimes get an overloaded front end on the lesser expensive radios, and you get what's called intermod or descents. And basically what that is just garbled sounds that come through your radio that don't make any sense and sound like there's something wrong with your radio, somebody on off frequency. It's picking up signals that it shouldn't be picking up. Your more expensive radios are going to have a better receive front end and able to filter that out better or just block it better. Your lesser expensive Chinese radios are not going to be as capable of filtering out some of that mess. If you live out in the sticks somewhere, it's probably not going to matter. You're probably never going to notice it. But if you live in a place where there's a lot of repeaters and a lot of RF energy bouncing around, that's something to consider. Also, something else that I will say about pricing, because this was brought up on the HT video as well. Prices of radios fluctuate. Okay, so I'm recording this video in May of 2020. It'll post later this month, probably later this month. The prices that I'm telling you today may or may not be the same. Even by the time I post this video, they may change, especially if you watch this video a month or two down the road or a year down the road. The prices are going to fluctuate. Okay, every radio, pretty much the rule of thumb is when a brand new radio comes out, it's at this price right here, and people buy it and it sells great. Regardless of whether it sells very well or hardly at all, the price will drop over time. It's just the nature of the business. Okay, so if you buy a radio that's a couple years old, then you're going to get a better price on it than a radio that's brand new and just came out last week, or that's being debuted at a Hamfest upcoming. So, and there's sales that run, and there's rebates that run from all the manufacturers. So just consider that. Shop around. look at Amazon, look at RNL Electronics, Gigaparts, Main Trading Company, HRO, whatever ham radio store you've been directed to by a friend. If you're a new ham, you may not have, you may be like, well, I'm not sure what ham radio store to go to. It's a good question. What ham radio store should you go to? My recommendation today is RNL Electronics, rnl.com. You can find that link in the description below. They are one of my show sponsors, and they have supported me for a long time, which is why I direct people to their website. They're not the only website out there. Gigaparts is a good website. Hamradio.com, which is HRO, is a good website. There's one called Universal Radio. BuyTwoWayRadios.com is decent. They don't have as many of the radios we're going to talk about today as some of the other stores do. But check with your local ham radio buddies and ask where they shop. Ask what they recommend. Might be a good starting point for you. Go check. And don't just go to the first website and buy your radio without checking other websites. Check all of them. Check all of them, compare prices, and then make your decision after that. Today we're going to start with the Tyt Th 8600, which is a smaller version of, it's a smaller form factor than a lot of the radios I'm going to talk about today, but it's also only 25 watts per band. 25 watts on 2 meters, 25 watts on 440. Generally speaking, most of the time your mobile radios are going to be between 40 and 50 watts per band. 35 watts maybe on 440, up to 50 watts on 2 meters, something like that. Some of them are close to 50 watts on both bands. But a 50-watt radio is considered pretty general. Most of it, a full-powered dual-band radio is about 40 to 50 watts this day and age, these days, in 2020 especially. So this one is a smaller form factor. It's got a few less features in it. And again, the front end on it is not going to be as good as some of these later ones I talk about. But it has a channel capacity of about 200 channels. They do say it's waterproof. I've not really tested that myself, so test at your own risk and discretion there. But it has a nice screen on it. It's got a blue it's got a color screen with a blue background. Got some different fonts on the screen that are different colors and whatnot, and you can see both bands on the screen at the same time, which is always a plus. So it's a 25-watt mobile radio, and at the time of this recording at the RNL website, it's about $110. Now, that's the lowest price mobile radio we're going to talk about today. There may be some out there that are lower priced than that. They're either A, I wouldn't recommend them, or B, I haven't tried them. So whatever the case may be, just kind of go with that. The next one is one that I actually did a review video on, and I'll post that right here. I'll post that review video right here. I've got another video upcoming where I'm going to put the radio in my truck and do some driving around with it. This is a Verotel, or VGC, Verotel Graphics Corporation or something like that. I forget what VGC, Verotelecom. I don't know what the VGC stands for. Anyway, this is a Verotel VR N7500, and it's basically a faceless radio that has Bluetooth in it that you interface to an Android phone or tablet. I interfaced it to my tablet that I can mount in my truck, and I can control it from the tablet. And it's got a microphone that comes off of the radio, and you can talk into it. It's kind of a new step in the mobile amateur radio market. There's a couple of ways to do this with some ICOMs. There's a couple other radios out there that will allow you to interface Bluetooth to an Android device or an iOS device. But it's not very common as of today. I think you're probably going to see a lot more of this upcoming. But as of right now, it's kind of a new thing. But the cool thing about this radio is you can mount it under the seat. You can mount it in the trunk. You can mount it somewhere and get a microphone extension cable for it. And you can hide it. You can hide it somewhere. And if you've got an Android-controlled car stereo, you can interface it to that. If you've got a phone mount where you can see your phone, I don't recommend holding your phone and driving down the road and trying to control your radio. But but if you've got something mounted in your car, be it a tablet, a phone mount, or a double-din car stereo, something like that, and you can kind of reach up and touch that just like you would change radio stations on your car stereo. It makes it really easy to control. You can program it and switch frequencies and switch bands, and then have an external speaker and basically hide the radio. It's a really neat concept. Preliminary tests with it have been very good. I've had good luck with it. Again, you're going to see, I'm going to put it in my truck and interface it back to my Android tablet, as I already did, and then try some on-the-road videos with it. So that ought to be really fun. At the time of this recording, this radio is roughly around $160. So it's a little bit more than the TH98 or the TH8600 that I just talked about. However, it is also more power. It's 50 watts on 2 meters and 40 watts on 440. So it's a little bit higher power than that, and it's got the Android-controlled feature going for it. Now, the next one is I'm going to talk about kind of two radios at the same time here. One of them is a dual band, one of them is a quad band. They're both analog. These are the TYT radios. Now, a lot of you have probably, if you're brand new to ham radio, maybe you haven't heard of any of these brands, and that's okay. That's okay. That's what we're talking about today. A lot of you have probably chosen a TYT for your first radio, especially if you're into DMR, and that's fine. But these two radios, are fairly new. They've come out within the last 3 or 4 years, maybe 5 or 6 years for the 9800, and they are basically copies of some older versions of Yaesu radios that are no longer made. Okay, so good, bad, ugly, right, wrong. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's what they are. Okay. So the TH7800 is a dual band, 2 meters and 440, and it is 50 watts per band. I actually did a review on this radio 2 or 3 years ago when it came out, and I'll try to link that right here. And I got more than 50 watts out. I think I got right at 50 watts on 2 meters and like 55 to 60 watts on 440. I was very impressed with the power. I don't remember exactly. It's been more than 2 years since I recorded that video. But go watch the link that was just posted up there. And I'll post a lot of this stuff in the description as well. I had very good luck with this radio. I ran it in my truck for a few months, not very long, but I had really good luck with it. It is dual band and dual receive. So what does dual receive mean? Dual receive means that you can see both bands at the same time and hear both bands at the same time. So if there's someone talking on 2 meters, you hear that activity, and there's someone talking on 440, you hear that activity, and they talk over, and they're talking at the same time, so it's like listening to two people talking at the same time. Sometimes it's kind of hard to hear, but the cool thing about this radio is that each side of the radio has an individual volume control and squelch control knob on it. Okay, a lot of the newer radios don't have that anymore these days. So if you're listening to both bands and one of them keys up and you're like, oh, I want to listen to that conversation, and then you start to get interference from the other side, all you do is reach over and turn the volume down, and you're done. There's no one volume knob that controls both sides. It's each side has its individual control knob for volume and squelch, and that makes it really convenient. At the time of this recording, this radio is roughly about $180, $190. You can get it. They do come with a separatable faceplate where you can remove the face from the radio, mount the radio underneath your seat, mount the very small faceplate in another part of the vehicle, run a cable from the face to your radio, and that makes it a lot more convenient for those of you with smaller cars. The next one I'll talk about is kind of a big brother to the 7800, which is the TH9800. Now, the TH9800 has been around longer. It is basically a copy of the Yaesu FT8900, and it's a quad band radio. It takes 2 meters and 440, but it adds 6 meter and 10 meter to them. So 6 meters 50 to 54 megahertz, and 10 meter is the 10 meter FM portion of the band is like 29 around 29 megahertz. It's an FM only radio, so you can't do 6 meter and 10 meter sideband or even 2 meter sideband on it. It's an FM only radio, so it's great for working 10 meter FM repeaters and 6 meter FM repeaters, or simplex, 6 meter FM simplex. Those two bands are not used hardly very much at all, and it really depends on propagation as to whether you'll ever be able to reach anyone on it. So it's a neat thing to have when the band is up, and it's really fun to talk to. If you have a local 6-meter FM repeater or a local 10-meter FM repeater, check Repeater Book or check RFinder to know what is near you. But you know, at the time, when these radios, a little side note here, the very first video I ever put up on this channel was how to program a TH9800, which at the time it was the only one out from TYT. It preceded the TH7800, it preceded the TH8600, and it was one of the first decently solid 50-watt mobile radios that TYT released. And I ran one of these in my truck for about a year and a half. And quite frankly, the only problem I ever had with it was that the mic on it was very hot. So if I was driving down the road and talking into the mic, and I was on the highway doing 50, 55 miles an hour or whatever, then people would say there was a lot of background noise. I drive a 4x4 pickup truck, and the tires can get noisy sometimes, so the mic was almost too hot to where it would pick up a lot of background noise. Other than that, I never really had any problems with it. So for a base, I took it out of the truck and used it for a base station for a while. It was perfect. Because for a base station, you don't need to worry about background noise so much. But since the TH7800 is newer, it's kind of a newer design, and I think it had a little bit better front end. So I'd probably really recommend the 7800 over the 9800, unless you just specifically want 10 meters and 6-meter FM for whatever reason, which is okay. I mean, again, if you have a 6-meter FM repeater near you that you want to talk on, do it. I mean, realistically, if you and a friend or two want to get on 6-meter FM, you'd probably have the repeater to yourself most of the time. So it's not a bad option. Those radios used to be about $250. I think they're down around the $200 mark right now. You can find them on Amazon. I will post a link below. RNL doesn't carry that specific model right now, and since it is an older model, it's the popularity of it has dropped because there's more options available now than there was when it was released. But it still gets used. I still get emails about it. I've got 86,000 plus views on that video that was the video I first posted. And you know, if you run across one used at a hamfest and pick it up and want to use it, it's probably going to be a decent choice for your very first radio. All right, now we're going to get into some of the better quality radios. The next five I'm going to talk about are all going to be from Japanese manufacturers. ICOM, Kenwood, Yaesu, and Elenco. Okay? So these are going to be higher quality, easier to program for the most part. Better front end, better transmit power, easier to navigate menus. Lots of the times the menus are much easier to navigate on the Japanese stuff than they are on the Chinese stuff. They're going to be more expensive, but they're going to be worth it because 10, 15 years from now, you're going to still be able to use any of these radios that I'm about to tell you about. In fact, one of them, when I get to it, is right... No, it's not. It's not. It's outside, actually. I've had one of these radios for 5 years and still works great. So let's dive into this. The first one is the ICOM IC2730. Now, all of these radios, the next four radios I'm going to tell you about are all roughly around the 250 to 350 range. So at one point in the past, ICOM, Kenwood, Yaesu, and Elenco all made a dual-band mobile radio that was roughly around the $325 to $350 mark. That's not as true these days. Now, let me explain. I tell you what, this radio right now on RNL Electronics is $261.89, and it offers a $20 mail-in rebate through ICOM that's good through the end of June, making it $241. This is a steal of a radio for $241. It's probably about the same, roughly about the same price from Ham Radio Outlet, Main Trading Company, etc., etc. But an ICOM radio for under $300, under $250 really, is a heck of a price. So if you're looking to spend $200 on a TH7800 or TH9800, somewhere in there. If you can swing an extra $50, you know, it's going to be 241 plus tax, or 261 plus tax, and then you get a mail-in rebate. So depending on what store you're buying from as to whether you're going to pay tax or not. If you can swing an extra you know, 50 or $60, much, much, much better radio than the TYT models. Okay, this is a fantastic rig. It's got a small detachable face. It's got a black and white screen. It doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles, but the front end is solid. The output power is awesome. I should have mentioned this. The TH7800 and TH9800 both hold 1,000 memory channels, so that's really good. I'm 90% certain the ICOM does as well. I can't really find it on the website right now, on RNL's website or HRO's website, but the ICOM also has optional Bluetooth. So you can get a Bluetooth headset, you can get a Bluetooth microphone, a wireless Bluetooth microphone for it. So it's got a lot of bells and whistles that you can add to it after the fact, should you choose to. It does have a detachable face, as I said, so you can remote mount the radio and put the face over here. It's really good. So for a first. In fact, I know one of the guys I hunt with has this radio. It was the first ever mobile radio he bought, and he still got it 4 years later, and he loves it. So this is a really great choice for a mobile radio, dual band mobile radio, if you know, if you don't mind spending a few extra dollars than what the Chinese stuff will get you. The next one I'll tell you about is an Elenco. It's a DR735T. At the time of this recording, it sells for right around the $300 mark, a little bit more, depending. But this is a cool radio because it's got a really nice large screen. The screen on the 2730 is a good size, roughly this size. The 735 from Elenco is bigger. So it's got a larger screen. It's a little bit easier to see display. It is remote mountable. In fact, the screen on this radio is a lot bigger. The body's only this tall, and the screen's about this tall. So it looks kind of funky when you have the screen attached to the radio. But you can attach it to the radio, or you can remotely mount it either way. This is a full duplex receiver, a full duplex radio. So it enables simultaneous transmit and receive on 2 meters and 440, as well as 2 meters at the same time and 440 at the same time. What does that mean? That means if you ever want to work satellite, this is a 50-watt mobile radio for working satellites with full duplex that you'll be able to work. It'll be a lot easier. It's not impossible to work a satellite with a radio that's non-full duplex, but it's much easier to do one with full duplex. So this is an added feature. If you ever think you might want to do satellite work, this is an excellent option for that. It does have, it's got 1,000 memory channels in 10 different banks, so you can put 100 channels per bank. It does have one bank that's only the right side of the radio, this side. This is your right, this is my right. 100 channels restricted to the right side, 100 channels restricted to the left side, and it's got 800 channels that you can put variously in both sides. So that's helpful if you ever want to have like a call channel or something that you want to monitor all the time. You want to get back to it real quickly. You can change the colors on the screen. You can set the screen to a certain color in the background when it's receiving, when it's transmitting. You can set each side of the screen to a different color. It's got a lot of kind of neat stuff like that. But it's a fun radio. I used one of these for a very short period of time. I still have one in a box around here somewhere. I couldn't get over how well the screen looked. But it is a great rig, especially if you're going to want to do satellite work at some point in the future. The next one is probably the oldest one out of the entire lineup today. This one's probably been around the longest, and it's still around because it's tried and true. It just works. It's a Kenwood Tm V71A. I ran one of these in my truck for about a year or so after I took the TH9800 out. I found a really good price on one used on eBay. Bought it, put it in there. Awesome. 999 memory channels. Full open dual receive on both sides of the radio. You can watch both sides at the same time. The ICOM, the Elenco, and this Kenwood I'm talking about are all dual receive. So you can watch 2 meters on one side of the radio, 440 on one side of the radio, and you can hear both of them at the same time if there's activity. So... but the Kenwood also has a remote mountable face, so you can put the radio elsewhere and mount the face up somewhere convenient. It's got full power on 2 meters, and I think it's 40 watts on 440, maybe 45 watts on 440, and it'll do. You can actually enable Echolink with this radio, which basically means you can set up an Echolink menu and point the radio at a repeater and add a remote Echolink station to the repeater. What is Echolink? Echolink is basically a way to connect repeaters together over the internet, so that I can have a radio in Texas, or I'm sorry, a repeater in Texas, and you can have a repeater in Florida, and we can connect them together via Echolink and talk to one another, even though we're not close to one another proximity-wise. So this has an Echolink feature built into it that allows you to do certain Echolink features with Echolink-capable things with certain repeaters. But about a $340 price tag on this radio, and it's retained that price tag for at least the last 4 or 5 years since I've known about it. Great radio, still in production. No digital modes, nothing really fancy bells and whistles, but it works. It's a great quality, and you'll be happy with it if you end up picking one of these up. All right, so the next one I'm going to talk about, I wanted to talk about it simply because I didn't want to leave Yaesu out. But at the time of this recording, there are no dual band mobile radios made by Yaesu that don't include system fusion. Okay, so I'm going to talk about the FTM 400 DR or DX radio. The FTM 400, what's commonly referred to as the FTM 400, 400XD. Yeah, FTM 400XD. I forget the last letters behind it. So it's their top of the line right now dual band mobile radio that includes Yaesu System Fusion, which is a digital voice mode. Yaesu used to make an FT 8800, which was what the TYT TH7800 was copied from, and Yaesu is a dual band, and Yaesu used to make an FT8900, which is what the TYT TH9800 was copied from, and it is a quad band, 10 meter, 6 meter, 2 meter for 40. Both of those, the FT8800 and FT8900, have been discontinued by Yaesu. You can find them on the used market all day long. And either one of those would be a good choice for your first mobile dual band analog radio, okay? But I'm not really adding them to the list because they're not currently in production. You can find them every now and then. One of these retailers like Main Trading Company or RNL will run across some new old stock, and you'll see it appear on their website for a little bit, and then they'll take it down after they sell. They say, we got 3 of them, and they'll sell them out, and then they'll disappear from the website. I think Yaesu even re-released the 8900 for a while and then discontinued it again. I don't remember exactly right now. But at the time of this recording, Yaesu's basically got 4 mobile radios out right now. Well, they've got 3 with the FTM 300 about to drop. And all of those mobile radios include fusion. Now, I'm talking about dual band radios here, okay? They do have one of their 75 or 85 watt 2 meter only radios, and those are pretty solid. I think it's a 7900. Those are still in production last I checked, but we're talking about dual band radios on this channel right now. So the FTM 400 XD is their top of the line dual band 2 meter 440 Yaesu System Fusion radio, which has this really big screen on it, nice looking color screen that doesn't mount to the radio. You have to mount it remotely. And a lot of the YouTubers use this radio in their own personal vehicles. I do not own one. I've never owned one. I have the FTM 100. The FTM 100 is being discontinued in lieu of the new FTM 300 that's about to drop. I really like the FTM 100. I like the screen on it. I like the display. In fact, it's right there. I don't have it hooked up right now, but it was a good radio. But so at the time of this recording, you've got the FTM 400 and you've got the FT 7250, both of which are dual band Yaesu System Fusion radios. The 7250 has a very small monochrome screen on it. I had one for a short period of time. I did a video on that radio right here. I didn't really care for it for my own personal use, but for an entry-level radio, it's not bad. It's not bad for an entry-level radio. If you're wanting to get something, if you just want something by Yaesu for whatever reason, because you like Yaesu, or maybe you want to get into system fusion, and that's okay. That's okay. I'm just, again, we're just primarily talking about dual band analog radios today, and Yaesu doesn't really offer anything like that at this time. So the FTM 7250DR, put an overlay up over that. It's dual band, but it's single band display at a time, so you can't watch both bands at the same time. It's got a old looking monochrome display screen. They're decent radios. Mine worked well. I did some testing on it with the video that I just posted or that I just linked up there. And it's a decent rig. It's got a front-facing speaker, which is kind of neat. And it's about $200, just over $200 at the time of this recording. The FTM 400 with the much larger screen and color display is just right about $500 at the time of this recording. So, again, it really depends on what you're going for. I would not suggest, just like I said in my HT video, I don't suggest getting a DV mode radio for your first mobile radio, like a DMR or a D-Star or a Fusion radio. I don't suggest getting, if you're buying your very first mobile radio for your vehicle, I don't suggest getting one of the digital voice modes for it, unless that is the whole reason you got into amateur radio. And then it's okay if you're like, I got my license just so I could talk on D-Star or just so I could talk on Fusion. No, great. Nothing wrong with that. If that's what you chose to do, if that's what you want to do, then buy a radio that fits your needs. The FTM 7250 is a good choice for the lower end model, right around $200. The FTM 400 has a lot more bells and whistles on it for about a little bit twice as much, for around $500. So go with the one that suits you best. The last one we will talk about today is another one that's been around for quite a long time, and it has it's a Kenwood Tm D7 10GA. It's got a very large monochrome screen on it as well. It's not as pretty as the Yaesu screen, but it comes with built-in GPS and APRS. It has a built-in terminal node controller if you ever want to do packet radio. It has a Sky Command firmware. So now I'm not going to get into talking about Sky Command. You can go up. There's a lot of details about Sky Command and how it works and what you use it for. I've used it once a long time ago, and I'm not an expert or familiar with it, so maybe that's something I'll talk about in an upcoming video later on. But this radio is really neat because it is, again, just like the Tm V71A, it's been around a long time. It's older, but it's so tried and true, and it's got so many great features to it, and they're so solid that they've just kept them around for a long time. So it's really good to see some of these radios when they're released. People keep buying them. There's still a market for them. They keep being interested in them, and the manufacturer keeps making them. I personally think that Yaesu should have kept going with at least one of their analog dual band radios, like the the FT8800. Because as of today, they don't offer anything that doesn't have Fusion built into it. And maybe people don't want to pay for that right now. I don't know. It's just, it's kind of a matter of personal preference. So, once again, that's the list, guys. There's certainly probably more I could have added to it. But this is going to be, this is really kind of like you just got a license, you want something to put in your car. What is it? These are radios that I recommend that I have personally used, except for one or two exceptions. I've never actually used an FTM 400, but Josh Naz on their ham radio crash course has one of those. Bob K6UDA, I think Bob has one. He's big into D-Star, but he's got a lot of Fusion stuff too. But there's two or three other guys out there on my local club that have an FTM 400 XD, and they really like that radio. And I value other people's opinions on that. So the Elenco and the Kenwood and the ICOMs I've used myself. But I haven't used the FTM 400, although the FTM 100 is a decent rig. So let me know in the comments below what you think. Again, this is a guide. It's not an all-inclusive video that says this is every radio that you ever need to know. So this is kind of a guide for buying your first mobile radio. Pretty much everything I've mentioned, starting with the IC2730 and up, is going to be a radio that if you choose to purchase it now, you're going to still be using it in 5 or 10 years because they are solid, awesome rigs. And with the price point of the IC2730, if you're not interested about digital modes, man, that thing's really cool. It's a great price at rnlelectronics.com right now. I think HRO has it for a really good price right now as well. And it's just all a matter of personal preference, man. What do you want to mount? Where do you want to mount it? How much room do you have? That kind of thing. Do you want the extra bells and whistles, or do you just want the basic stuff? So 73, put your comments below. Check out these videos over here for Best HT, and we're going to do some more videos upcoming on DMR radios and tri-band radios and 220 radios and all kinds of good stuff. 73, and we'll catch you guys next time.